Welcome to Mimi's Home and Garden. I'm so glad you're here. Yes, I grew over 400 pounds of food in 4 months right in my backyard. And this video is going to share with you exactly how I did that. Now, I started this process planting around April 14th. I took part of my yard, which was full of azaleas, dug those up, tilled up the dirt, and put in another garden. So basically this spring doubled the size of my garden. And I wanted to make sure that I could grow enough food for my family because I was very concerned of the food shortages and the high prices. And I'm going to tell you, it was a great success. So the first step in measuring and knowing how much food I grew was to weigh and keep a record of everything that I grew. So as soon as I would pick produce, I'd come right in the house and weigh it, and then I charted it. I kept this on my refrigerator. And so for 4 months, I've been writing down exactly how much everything weighed for a grand total of over 425 pounds. Now, I did not weigh the greens because it takes a lot of greens to make 1 pound. This is basically your bulk produce: tomatoes, cucumbers, potatoes, sweet potatoes, green beans, peppers, squash, and zucchini. So I kept up a list of everything that I picked out of that garden, and I weighed it and I wrote it down. Then I took all of these totals and came together in my garden notebook that I keep every year and wrote down exactly how many pounds of yellow squash, how many pounds of zucchini, cucumbers, and I'll go over this at the very end of the video so you can see exactly how much produce I got. Here's a little hint for you. I got over 200 pounds of tomatoes from my backyard, and that is amazing to me. Now, everything that I grew in my garden, I started from seed in my home. So I set up grow stations and put in grow lights, warming mats, and grew all my plants. That's why I have so many tomato plants. I had them stuck everywhere. But it worked because I got a good yield and I'm still getting tomatoes. So if you'd like to know how to do a backyard garden, I do have a playlist. I'll share that at the end of the video that you can go to and follow my path this year. I don't have a farm. I don't have a homestead. But I do have a backyard, and I was very successful in growing our own food. I'm going to show you in the video how I've processed that food to have all winter. I've canned, I've dehydrated, and I've got my freezer packed. So stay with me and let's grow together. So everything you see on this table I grew in my backyard, and I'll go over that at the end of the video. But the first step in the same dining room is where I set out all my seeds and I grew all my plants. And this is the side yard that we took out 27 azaleas. We tillered it up and we made our new garden bed. Now on the other side of the yard is my existing backyard garden, which we've had for about 4 years, and it's been very productive. But this year we really doubled the size of our garden. And as you can see from the pictures, everything is green and healthy, and we just had such a good harvest. These garden boxes were full by the middle of June. There are the green bean trellises. My husband and I built extra trellises this year. There's all the tomatoes. I had tomatoes everywhere in my garden. And it was such a joy to get out and work this garden every day. And I'm still out there every day. But I have been so blessed with great produce this summer. Look at the beautiful blooms. So I was able to get a good supply of zucchini and squash, cucumbers. I've made pickles. We ate a lot of these cucumbers. There's the green beans that I grew, bush beans, and then I also grew up on a trellis. Now my potato harvest was a little bit disappointing, but I was able to dehydrate a large gallon jar full of good potatoes. These are the peppers. They're still going, and I've made so much zucchini bread, and the freezer is full of zucchini loaves that we can enjoy. I've given away a lot of produce to family members. But everything got weighed and everything got written down. And I'm telling you, I've never seen so many tomatoes. I did not have to go out and buy any bushel boxes of tomatoes. And then I had 4 tubs of sweet potatoes, and I was really tickled over this harvest. It turned out great, and I will be adding more of that next year. Even my jalapeno peppers, they just keep growing and growing, so I'm going to dry these out in my greenhouse. Now here are all the jars. I made pizza sauce. I have all of these jars of tomatoes that I use in soups, in chilies, in spaghetti sauce. There is some salsa I made, and we've been enjoying that, and I've been giving that away. There's some of the zucchini nut bread that I've made. I made green tomato relish with tomatoes. I made squash and zucchini pickles. Dill relish with the cucumbers. I've got even hot pepper vinegar back there. There's my big jar and a smaller quart size of the potatoes I harvested. I dehydrated those. And I even dehydrated some zucchini so that maybe January, February I can make a new batch of zucchini bread. There are peppers I picked today. I'm going to freeze those. And then there are all the pints of green beans that I put up. I did not have to buy a bushel for myself of green beans this year because I was able to grow those right in the backyard. So everything on this table came from the backyard, and I've got my pantry nice and stocked for this coming year. This is such a blessing, and I am so thankful to God for His blessings. Now in the freezer, I also put up breaded squash where I sliced it, put it in some seafood breader, and froze it. I've got green beans in the freezer, and I've got tomatoes in the freezer. So I canned, froze, and dehydrated a lot of this produce that you're seeing. Here's just one more shot of everything that I have put up from my backyard garden. So it can be done. It takes work, and you can't leave it alone. You've got to pull those weeds, you've got to water, you've got to fertilize, but it really does work. And to me, it's amazing that I could get this much out of my very small backyard. All right, so let's look at our totals. Yellow squash, I picked 28.5 pounds. Zucchini, 26.5 pounds. Potatoes, 23.5 pounds. And I would have had more potatoes, but I had a very hungry mole that lived in that row, and he got a lot of them. I had 83 pounds of cucumbers, and we have eaten a ton of cucumbers. 61 pounds of green beans, 20 pounds of sweet potatoes, 200 pounds of tomatoes, and then 7.2 pounds of peppers, for a subtotal of 449.70 pounds of produce. And my corn was a loss due to the rodents. So let's look at how many things I canned. 32 pints of green beans, 31 quarts of tomatoes, 12 and those half-pint jelly jars of pizza sauce, 11 pints of salsa, 7 pints of tomato relish, 6 pints of squash pickles, and I did put up 8 pints of my freezer dill pickles, 4 pints of dill relish. Now I also put up 4 quarts of frozen tomatoes, 4 quarts of green beans, and 8 quarts of the sliced squash that was coated in seafood breader. So I've had a really good haul this year. Now if you'd like to know how I did all of this growing right in my backyard, I have a whole playlist of everything that I have done to create and grow and even harvest these vegetables. So go to my playlist and look for gardening and food preservation videos. I will leave a link below. So I hope this has motivated you to get out there and start your own backyard garden. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, my friends, have a very blessed day.